Okay, welcome everybody. This is the Cleveland Heights City Council meeting. It is May 19th at 7:49. Sorry about the lateness. Addie, would you call the roll?
Cobb. Kuda.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Russell. Petrus.
Here.
Posh.
Okay, and we're going to excuse Councilman Posh. He's not here today. Amendments to the agenda?
Mr. President,
Please, go ahead.
I'd like to motion to add Resolution 100, 2025 to first readings for adoption.
So moved.
All right, well, again,
Sorry, second.
That's right. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So this resolution condemning anti-Semitism is now on the agenda. Approval of minutes. Did everybody look at March 3rd and March 17th minutes? Any adjustments to that or amendments? All right, then we'll consider those. Communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've prepared a statement and I'll be releasing that tomorrow. Tonight, I'm here to listen to everybody here to speak.
Okay, is that conclude your report? All right, thank you, Mayor. Let me just make sure I have this. No departmental reports. Report of the Clerk of Council.
Just to notify council that a notice from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control has been received for the transfer of a D1, D2, D3 liquor permit for Boiling Seafood LLC to Lee's Seafood Boyle Lee Road LLC. This matter has been referred to the mayor and chief of police.
Thank you, Addie. So we have a public comment right now, so we got to it quickly. Thank you for waiting. Before we begin public comment, let me remind everyone, please be respectful when you're addressing our elected officials. There's nothing wrong with being passionate. It wouldn't be Cleveland Heights without that passion, but please stay respectful. You do have 3 minutes, but if you can do a little bit less, we do have a lot of speakers and we want, would help out if we could, move through them. You don't need to obviously repeat what anybody else says. When you do approach the podium, state your name and the street you live on, and then just go ahead with it. Addie, first person. Oh, we're going to do agenda items first.
Sarah Popker.
All right, so I'm...
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Popivker, and I speak to you tonight not just as a Jewish woman, but as a resident, a taxpayer, and a member of a community that claims to value diversity, justice, and accountability. The recent reports regarding Mayor Khalil Saren's wife and her alleged anti-Semitic behavior inside City Hall are deeply disturbing. And let's be clear, these are not trivial incidents. These are serious allegations that reflect a growing and dangerous trend of casual anti-Semitism being brushed aside or minimized, even in so-called inclusive spaces. And first-hand accounts, the mayor's wife used anti-Semitic language, created a hostile environment for Jewish employees, and disrupted the functioning of our city government. That is unacceptable, morally, professionally, and ethically. If these allegations are true, she owes this community more than an apology. We need action, and we need it from our mayor, our council, and our institutions. It is not enough to condemn hate in vague terms. We demand clarity. We demand standards, and that begins with the official adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism by the City of Cleveland Heights. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's working definition is clear, widely accepted, included by dozens of countries and many US institutions. And it helps distinguish between legitimate political discourse and anti-Semitic speech and actions. Adopting it would send a strong message that this city takes anti-Semitism seriously, the Jewish lives and voices matter, and that there are clear lines that should never be crossed. Let me be direct. If our leaders will not stand against anti-Semitism, they are complicit in allowing it to grow. And if they cannot ensure a safe, respectful work environment for Jewish public servants, they are failing in their basic duty. Cleveland Heights can and must do better. We deserve a city government that reflects the values of all its people. That includes Jews, and that includes everyone who demands respect, inclusion, and accountability from those in power. To Mayor Seren, silence is not leadership. Denial is not justice. And failure to act is not neutrality, it is abandonment. To our City Council, you have the power to do something meaningful. Start by adopting the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. Then ensure it is implemented in policy and practice, so no Jewish resident or employee ever has to wonder if their concerns will be dismissed or ignored again. We are watching, we are organizing, and we will not stay silent. Thank you.
Adam Small.
Might not have heard you,
Adam Small.
Adam.
Good evening. I'm here tonight because of recent news reports shedding light on the issues of rampant anti-Semitism at Cleveland Heights City Hall, primarily at the hands of Mayor Kahili Seren's wife, Natalie McDaniel, adding to the long list of problems that she has directly caused to her unhinged and hateful behavior, which has created a hostile workplace environment at City Hall, which previous news reports have extensively covered. However, this new issue of anti-Semitism is particularly disturbing. I'm going to read to you the list of quotes as were reported by Cleveland.com, and as I read these quotes, I want you all to imagine replacing the word Jews with perhaps the word blacks or Asians or gays. Referring to a Jewish resident who complained to a city council about city services as, quote, that Jewish bitch. Saying to former city council members who are Jewish, place their allegiance to the Orthodox Jewish community above all else. Referring to current city councilman Jim Posh as the, quote, Jewish candidate. Saying Marty Gelfand, as city resident and former South Euclid city councilman who has pulled petitions to run for mayor in Cleveland Heights this year, was being recruited to run, quote, because of his Jewish faith and calling him, quote, one of them. Calling Planning and Economic Development Director Eric Zamft, who is also an Orthodox Jew, a, quote, pawn of the Orthodox Jewish community, and accusing him and Cohen of having sexual relationship, quote, simply because they are both Orthodox Jews. How do these derogatory slurs make you feel? Could you imagine the outrage if the same were said about any other minority groups, such as blacks, Asians, Hispanics, gays, etc.? Why is hatred against Jews being so normalized and tolerated? Notice how none of these slurs had any relation to Israel, quote unquote Zionism, or any other form of politics. This was blatant, unfiltered Jew hate. It goes to show that anti-Zionism truly is anti-Zionism after all. It's only a matter of time before the anti-Semites show their true colors. There's a pattern of anti-Semitism being a rampant problem in the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party. University Heights Mayor Brennan has targeted and harassed Orthodox Jewish residents and city leaders. Solon Mayor Kraus refuses to condemn anti-Semitism and radicalism and instead praises those who push Jew hatred and gives them privileges to lead DEI-related matters within the city. Cuyahoga County Democrat Party chairs have been witnessed and documented promoting blatant anti-Semitism. This is a result of nationwide leftist democratic policies becoming rapidly hostile, anti-Semitic, and radical. Your wife is proof of this, Khalil. We all know how you feel about Israel and Jews when you're not speaking like a politician. Her abhorrent anti-Semitic comments are a reflection of the hate that is bred in the home, and more likely among your hipster doofus friends and associates who go around wearing trendy pro-Hamas terrorist keffiyehs.
Okay, we have to wrap it up because your 3 minutes is up.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yaakov Benger.
Good evening, Yaakov Berger, 3543 Shannon Road. I stand there as a resident of Cleveland Heights and a proud Orthodox Jew. The allegations of comments made by Mayor Saren's wife directed at the Orthodox community are deeply hurtful and unacceptable. They do not reflect the values of Cleveland Heights, a city identified with the slogan, "All are welcome." I want to thank the members of this council who are speaking up. Your leadership matters, but words alone are not enough. Our community is watching closely and expects accountability, transparency, and a clear stand against hate. We're here tonight not only to support one another, but to make it clear, anti-Semitism has no place in Cleveland Heights or anywhere else. Thank you.
Drew Herzig. Drew Herzig. I think he's out.
Drew Herzig, Bradford Road, Cleveland Heights. Mr. Mayor, councilors, I wish to thank the city for its resolution designating June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. With the constant attacks on our community at the state and federal levels, local affirmation is more important than ever. This resolution honors our existence and our continued resistance to all the forces that would marginalize us, criminalize us, deny us our equality under the law, deny us the very right to exist. Although this resolution specifies the LGBTQ+ community, pride is really for everyone. All oppression is connected. So as we work against the evils of homophobia and transphobia, we must also work against all types of prejudice and bigotry. We must fight against the fundamental oppressions of misogyny and racism. We must fight against xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia. We must fight against ageism, ableism, and everything that divides us. This is our struggle, this is our jihad, this is our tikkun olam. This is our commitment to full equality under the law, to recognize the intrinsic worth of every human life. That is why we celebrate Pride, because we are here, we have always been here, we will always be here, and we shall be free. Thank you.
All right, that's all I have for legislative agenda items, Mr. President.
All right, go on with general.
Cindy Evans.
I have a question for President Tony Kuda. Is it possible that we can get some flyers about the home exterior repair program? Because so many people in my neighborhood, they're not aware of it because they're not online. And I was just wondering, maybe if I can get some flyers and pass out. I live on Grayton Road. If I can at least get 100 to pass out to maybe 100 people in my neighborhood. Is that possible?
Mayor, I don't see any.
Because not everyone is connected.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I don't know if there is a flyer.
So Ms. Evans reached out just a little bit ago, a few days ago, to inquire about this with me and with Todd Walburn in the Mayor's Action Center. I am all in favor of providing these flyers, and I'm not up to date on whether or not those have been produced yet, so I'll have to check in.
Just to let the public know, your issue is actually a serious one, and it's something that's been addressed. It needs to be addressed across the city. So we're working with some nonprofits and other faith-based organizations to really start to spread the word in those neighborhoods as well, to make sure, for that precise reason, because some of the links that will be necessary to get some of the resources may be online only. So making sure that they have a paper way to apply and that someone can walk through them, I think is also important to make sure that they have someone. So thank you for that.
Good idea.
But we definitely need to disseminate those through other organizations as well as we're working through that, because that's a common piece of feedback that we got about that and 2 other programs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for bringing that up.
Eileen Rammerman.
Good evening. I'm Eileen Rammerman from Rutherford Road. Cleveland Heights is a city where all are welcome. Anti-Semitic comments or any other hate speech must never be tolerated. Unfettered access to employee meetings and conversations by non-city employees is inappropriate and should never have been granted. A prompt apology acknowledging harm caused and taking responsibility for inflammatory incidents might have helped rebuild relationships with employees, council members, and residents, but the silence has unfortunately gone on too long. There's been a lack of response to reports of employee harassment and bullying by the mayor's spouse, which have created a hostile work environment. Continued acceptance of the status quo will put the city in danger of expensive lawsuits and more employee resignations. I don't see how any steps short of the mayor's resignation would provide a solution. Thank you.
Angel Fasolo.
Angel Fasolo, Edge Hill Road. I'm here with a sign that's been updated. I showed up on December 19th at the meeting when some of the issues were just about your ability to deal with the budget or how you dealt with the budget. That night, you chose to call anyone who supported council sycophants. Since that time, more and more people are calling for your resignation. More and more people are realizing you are the problem. We've lost another city administrator. We've lost many employees. We've lost one of your fiercest supporters inside City Hall, your right-hand man, who's now accusing the First Lady, as you call her, of making all of these comments that everyone else will repeat tonight. I don't even need to repeat them all tonight. You could have stepped down. You could have been honest. It's overdue. It's long overdue. And for some saying that, well, this is your wife's problem, you are the mayor. You could have turned off access to keys, granting permission to areas of the building that are not public access. She could have not been sitting in on meetings, harassing staff, speaking about our residents, spewing hate speech, standing in the doorway on December 19th, calling one of the councilmen who supported you almost the entire time you've been the mayor here, a word I will not use before your name anymore. Standing there calling him an effing liar, standing in front of another resident, staring her down. You were silent then. You've been silent all the way through. It took this. You could have substituted any other group, and this is not to diminish from any of the anti-Semitism that truly, truly was displayed. But you permitted this. You have fueled this. You said it's okay. As a quick comment saying, my wife's views and my views and the First Lady's views are their own. Fine. Spouses have different views. Spouses don't give each other the keys to City Hall. You did. You need to resign. You needed to resign in December, January, February, March, April. It's May. It's overdue. And I'm sure we'll hear more.
Kelly Ovsek.
New topic at the moment. Greetings, Mayor, Law Director, and Council. I'm Kelly Ovsek of Delaware Drive and have returned to offer further comments since our last council meeting. As you are aware, I'm one of the residents in the neighborhood requesting you not to sell our city property at Cedar Road between Delaware and South Overlook Drives. Yesterday, I was walking around the neighborhood collecting signatures and introduced myself to a neighbor I had not met yet. Her disposition clearly told me she knew who I was, and eager to say she did not share my same belief that development is bad. In fact, she stated, as a business owner, she embraces development as is what the city is supposed to do to support the business district, allowing more residents in who will support them. This made me think, I'm not against development, but I do think development comes in different forms. And when it comes to busy business districts, it's just as important to support and protect the integrity of the neighborhoods that surround these areas as it is to support business owners. There are different ways to develop a piece of property. The option placed in front of us is to build, and as a neighborhood, we prefer enhancement. The choice or direction one takes includes much more consideration than is evident through the current process, a process I continue to question. It's been over 5 years since the city charter was to be updated for the new form of government arriving in 2022. I'd like to know the status of this. Currently, no council members sit on planning, zoning, or the architectural review board, or whatever of the other committees. Look around at any other city that has a strong mayor council government. Council heads the committees. With the election of a new form of government, it was meant to change the way things are done. Clearly, this is not the case. If everyone was working off an updated charter, imagine what could be accomplished. Imagine, council, if you had voting seats at these committees. I've been told the updates to the charter now suit the law department. Mr. Hanna, are you able to respond and tell us when those changes will be finalized and ready for the November ballot? But back to the issue at hand.
What I can tell you is, just to respond, council has asked for input from the law department based upon the process they following the Charter Review Commission's process, and they'll have that revised text based upon their direction in June.
In June, thank you. So back to the issue at hand. Through our engagement with council, submitting our petition multiple times, and attending emotionally heightened project presentation by the architect, we as a neighborhood continue to agree that enhancing the property, an entranceway to Cleveland Heights, all the while addressing our concerns and issues regarding safety, noise, and light pollution, is the direction the city should consider. We want the opportunity to work with city to engage in an alternative proposal, a proposal that will keep intact the integrity of our neighborhood, address legitimate issues which benefit all of Cleveland Heights, not just the developer. We have an opportunity in front of us, which is to be an example of what a neighborhood in partnership with the city can accomplish. Please support us in this request. Vote down the sale of the property and work with this neighborhood to accomplish so much more. And remember that resident so eager to tell me she disagrees with my viewpoint? She stated upon my departure that the property should be a dog park. Thank you for your time.
Parker Heller.
Hello, my name is Parker Heller, and I'm the president of Students Supporting Israel at Kent State University, along with one of the vice presidents at Hillel. But I'm not here today based on those organizations. I'm here today based on the Jewish community that stands and believes in dignity, respect, and justice for all. We recently learned of deeply troubling words reported by the mayor's wife. These, not just one time, multiple quotes. Adam already said them already, so I don't need to go through them all, but these remarks are not just words, they are wounds. They echo centuries of hate and marginalization that have no place in any community, especially one as proud and diverse as Cleveland Heights. Let me be clear, anti-Semitism in any form is hateful, harmful, and unacceptable. It should not be tolerated, excused, or and even in public office, especially the mayor's wife. But I'm here today not just for division, not division, but understanding. We want everyone, regardless of race, religion, or background, to feel safe and welcome at Cleveland Heights. Just imagine changing the words of that Jewish B word to that gay, that black, that Christian, that Catholic, that Muslim, any one of those. How would the community react? Being Jewish and supporting Israel does not mean any one identity. We have to uplift our voices, especially as a Jewish community, and stand up to hate no matter what community we're in, whether any of the communities that I listed. So let's use this moment to commit our shared values and speak out when it comes to the mayor's wife's words. And I just want everyone to feel safe and welcome. Thank you.
Rachel Lerner.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Lerner. I live on Washington Boulevard, and I thank you for hearing my comments this evening. Sir, I want to read something from this resolution so you know how important it is to all of us to support it. It says, Whereas public officials and those closely associated with them are expected to conduct themselves in a manner that reflects the integrity, accountability, and ethical standards expected by the people they serve. Your silence has been deafening. The minute that your wife's comments were made, that you either heard directly or someone reported to you, you should have unequivocally discredited them and said that they are not worth repeating. You are a public servant. We trusted in you when we elected you, and you do not represent us. Cleveland Heights is known for its diversity, and that's why people from all over the country actually move here. And the fact that you sit in a position of power, you have not said an apology or clearly said that you are sorry, in my opinion, you don't deserve our respect. You don't deserve a position of power. And the best thing for you to do is to resign. And one other thing, you can thank your wife for destroying your political career because it's ending now.
Michael Dobson. Michael Dobson.
Okay. Michael Dobson, I live in Solon, Spring Grove Drive. It is the weakness of some people to single out a single group and blame them for all sorts of issues. But we have a powerful defense against this tendency. It's called morality. Someone guided by a strong moral compass will never descend into blind hatred. Rabbi Sachs said, "The hate that begins with the Jews never ends with Jews." I hope this city has enough morally grounded individuals to stand up against discrimination and racism. Thank you. That's all I have.
Susan Ofoimson and Rhonda Davis Lovejoy.
Hi, I'm Susan Ephraimson, and I would like to respond to someone who spoke at a recent council meeting and said that since we decided to elect a mayor and we elected this mayor, that this is what we voted for. I wonder, does he still stand by that now with these last revelations? As a member of Citizens for Elected Mayor, I can describe the office that we envisioned, not the one we got. It's an at-large public servant. At-large means you represent everyone. Council too, that means that Councilman Maddox's public expression of annoyance that Jews dared contact him by email and only care about Israel are just as bigoted and in defiance of the mission to represent us all. Mayor Sarins, as are Mayor Sarins, who ignored our pleas for help with garbage pickup and a leak on our streets. The CEM vision promoted collaboration, accountability, responsiveness, and transparency, not restricting council from getting information to do their job, not hiding contracts and campaign surveys, not leaving out the math when proposing a budget, or refusing to take part in the investigation into the hostile workplace complaints that council received. At the time, they were not even about the Jewish community. When a superior acts in an intimidating manner, that's bullying, intimidation, and threatening. When it's also bigoted, it's hate speech. And when you say you want to rip off another's clothing, wish them dead, and in the same grotesque manner that Nazis used for, after gassing Jews to turn them into glue and soap, that's a threat, a stomach-turning, despicable threat. And some of those other sickening comments, libel, defamation, certainly violations of how respectable people respectfully address each other. It's a violation to those you employ to have let any of this harassment continue. Some DEI training, maybe? The amendment did not create an office of the First Lady, Mayor Sarin. And Mayor, when you in a recent committee of the whole meeting said that the woman who uttered those comments in City Hall stays here because you seek her counsel, you own this. This is a violation of your office to represent and protect and serve your citizens. It is my hope that all threats and hate speech will be investigated and charged as warranted. CEM was not naive, however. We understood that we may not get the relationships that we'd hoped for. That's why it created a co-equal council-mayor relationship for the necessary checks and balance. So council, do your duty, take action, end this scourge and return us to the welcoming city we once were so that we can feel safe here and we can once again be that welcoming city. Council, do your duty.
Mayor Sarin, Council, my name is Rhonda Davis Lovejoy, and of course, you do realize that I was a former chairman of the Racial Justice Task Force. So what I'd like to know at this point is what the next steps are. I echo what we've heard earlier. I'm disappointed. I'm very emotional about it, actually. But I need to know what the next steps are. The Racial Justice Task Force has been inactive. We've turned in our report, but now I'm looking at social justice. This is a concern for all of us. We don't want to go forward this way. I'm talking directly to you, Mayor, because I should. We need to know what we're doing next. We cannot go through day by day waiting and wondering what is supposed to happen next in terms of the justice that this community deserves, the Orthodox community, who are my neighbors and friends and my family. I consider them that. I am hurt, I'm brokenhearted that we are in Cleveland Heights today, talking like this, having these conversations, and going through this menticide in terms of how embarrassing, outrageous, how disrespectful these conversations are. This is not good for our city. We are one community, one community, and we should demonstrate that in everything we do, in everything we say, and how we represent one another. From the citizens to the businesses, the children, our schools, everything, there's a whole list. The Racial Justice Task Force had a recommendation list as long as I can possibly stand here and say for another 3 minutes. It's very important for us to be transparent right now and talk about how we feel. I know that you want to give a response tomorrow, but today is the day. We need to hear from you. Thank you.
Amy Eugene.
Amy Eugene, Scarborough Road. Mayor, your disrespect for the Jewish community continues to show up here tonight and not have a statement. Andrea Heim was the first city employee that we know of to have the courage to notify HR that Natalie McDaniel was causing an untenable work environment here at City Hall. Andrea Heim suffered the impact of a verbal assault. Andrea Heim was consequently put on paid leave while the assailant was allowed and enabled to continue showing up at City Hall. Andrea Heim was the courageous canary in this city's coal mine. Dan Horrigan was the person with enough power, mayor-to-mayor power, to recognize something had to be done because you did not and would not act for months. Dan Horrigan knew it needed to be brought into the daylight, into the public's eye, because you were keeping this and the Kane Park situation in the dark. You did not and would not act for months. These names, Andrea and Dan, along with other employees, Jessica Cohn, Marty Zampf, Patrick Costigan, Jessica Rosenblatt, and other Kane Park employees, and some of our police officers are all now part of a group that I imagine none of them ever wanted to be part of, unnecessarily experiencing volatile wrath, intimidation, bullying, and for some, hatred and anti-Semitism from a direct extension of the mayor's office. And I can assure you, there are others who are still too afraid to come forward. Instead, Mayor, you, as bully in chief, protected and enabled Natalie McDaniel and Ian Hens. You did and continue to do that. This is all on you. It is said that democracy dies in the dark. Well, so does the soul of a city. What has come to light is that you allowed, enabled, and therefore are culpable of behavior that is unacceptable anywhere. It seems that for too long, far too long in this great city of ours, you have allowed the chipping away at the heart and fabric of who we are and what we stand for in Cleveland Heights. It's time you step down to allow our staff and city to heal and move forward. Don't spend another dime of this city's money. Step down, resign now.
Alex Popivker.
Good evening, Mayor Seren, Councilman. We are here because of, my name is Alexander Popivker. I live in Cleveland Heights, and I wanted to say that we're not here because of this incident. And I feel like it's wrong to blame one person for something that so many here are guilty of. And that's silence. Silence when there's accusations of Jews being colonizers and, white supremacists, the new ways to say kike, that's politically correct. And it wears the mask of social justice. I read your resolution and I thank you for it, but it lacks any action. When I met Khalil Seren and campaigned for him, we had very good conversations, and he had plans, and I know he tried to implement some of them to engage the Jewish community, to have some kind of events, a Jewish fair. We do have many holidays, Jewish people, we can choose one that's significant. It's one of the oldest Jewish communities in America. And unfortunately, there's no representation of that in anything I see on Cleveland Heights page or really in the history of Cleveland Heights. I want to thank Jim Petras for designating May the month of Jewish heritage. Unfortunately, that has not been mentioned even once this year, as far as I know. So the resolution is nice, but it's words. What we need to do is adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, because every time you say anti-Semitism here, none of you know what it means. There's a lot of ignorance, and that's the real problem. That's the real evil here that we need to confront. Adopting IHRA definition of anti-Semitism would allow everybody to learn what anti-Semitism is, according to International Holocaust Remembrance Association. Who are we going to ask about what anti-Semitism means, if not people that know about the facts of what has been happening to Jewish people throughout history? So I ask you, please, to have the courage to do what needs to be done. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says that light is a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. So, there's people that are afraid. They think it's a numbers game. They think if they don't represent 1 million people, then it won't make a difference. And they are kind of, I don't like Channel 3 anyway.
Alex, unfortunately, we're out of time.
I thank you very much. God bless you. And I know you'll do the right thing eventually.
All right, Jan.
David Popivker.
Hello, good evening. I'm David Popivker. I live at 3384 Blanche Avenue. So first off, I'd like to start with asking for a minute of silence for the hostages still in captivity. Thank you. And just as we are dealing with the current situation that's going on, the Jews have gone through multiple times of captivity, of wrongdoings, and even now we, not comparably, but we have similar situations going on. Jews being disparaged, terrible remarks being said. But we see that the Jews go on, the Jews show up, we see everyone around us. And actually, one thing that we say in the Jewish culture is we say that every week we read a portion from the Torah. And we learn that the portion that we're learning about that week, we learn that it was, it has a specific connection with the day-to-day life. And this week's Torah portion is actually a combination of two. It's Bahar and Bechukotai. Bahar means on the mountain, and Bechukotai means in my statutes. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe says that there's a lesson to learn not only from the names, which we learn from multiple things, multiple other parshas as well, but also in the fact that they're combined. Because we see that the term Bahar, when we see a mountain, mountains are tall, mountains are majestic, we see the power. But not only do we have to have power, we have to have a source for power, because if you let power go rampant, it leads to pride, it leads to just relentless gluttony. But you need Bechukotai. What do we have Bechukotai? Bechukotai, we have the commandments, the statutes from God that we follow, our traditions. That's what we represent, that's who we are, and that's what allows us to maintain our identity throughout history, throughout persecution. We will continue to be who we are. We will continue to represent ourselves as we are today. But it's important that we receive help from our elected officials. We need action. Action. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Philip Wadsworth.
My name is Philip Wadsworth, live on Delaware Drive. I'm here and spoke with Kelly about the sale of the potential sale of the green space at the bottom. I want to thank the council for giving me the opportunity. I can't stand up here and not say impressed by all the comments that have already been made. Totally different subject is mine. I'm here to tell you you've got a bad business deal in front of you and recommend that you do not approve it. At $40,000 for the proposed sale of those two properties. If we look at what has been sold in the area, my wife and I looked at a property on a piece of land on South Overlook. It sold a couple of years ago for 123. The two properties that are close to the bottom of South Overlook appear to have sold in 2011 for about $80,000. Right? So, so $40,000 to put 3 houses on for 3 lots seems grossly underpriced. If we take sort of averages and think that, right there, the city is about to lose about $180,000, assuming that those properties are worth, say, 40% less than what the one on South Overlook actually sold for because it's on a busy street. That's about $181,000. So let's assume they get built. high-income earners move in, you collect 2.25% income tax. Someone who earns $300,000, say three families that earn that, you're going to generate about $20,000 of property tax. But you're going to lose $180,000 in what you could have earned from that. And if we think about the tax abatement, so that math, sorry about the math, I'm an engineer, that math gives you a 9-year payback. It's a bad deal. If we think about the tax abatement, why are there 3 lots in there? Because it qualifies under the Community Reinvestment Area Program Guide on page 30. It qualifies as a condo. It's been presented as townhomes. It is definitely a condo. There's a joint agreement between the houses, because that then allows them to get a 15-year, 100% abatement on the taxes. How much is that worth to you? Assuming the property, when I looked up, it's about $25,000 for a $900,000 house. So you're about to lose $1.1 million. Property income, income tax generating $20,000, that gives you a 55-year payback. Not good. Recommendations of the council: do not approve this sale. It is a bad deal. Maintain the existing green space. It has value. It has real value to the people that live there and to the community. Things you could do with that: you could put a welcome to Cleveland Heights sign on it. It's the top of Cedar Hill. It's a great environment. It should have been, as I understand it, done with the Ascent. Or consider putting in a micro forest in there to promote the green space. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Helen Liggett.
Hello, my name is Helen Liggett. I live on Delaware Drive. My topic is the proposal to sell the city-owned public space on Cedar Road between Delaware Drive and South Overlook for private development. A potential developer presented a proposal on the 15th. His slide of an overview of the site showed what a graceful shape this sliver of land has. It also showed how narrow it is. At ground level, the site is at the bottom of a U shape that describes the immediate neighborhood. The two streets, Delaware Drive and South Overlook, going up to North Park, make the legs of the U. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That was not part of my, I'm back practiced, you know. No, that's okay. Thank you. Okay, so anyhow, so you have the lot at the bottom, and then the two things form the legs of a U. And one could add the parallel adjacent streets to broaden the concept of the neighborhood. From this point of view, the developers claim that the site is part of a commercial district and therefore should be developed as private high-end condominium units isn't logical. The site has been public space for at least 77 years. It functions as community green space for the immediate neighborhood. It is well loved, as evidenced by the number of signers to the petition to save it. It is used daily by walkers, especially dog owners. In this regard, it is passable all year, whereas the sidewalk is dangerous in the winter, so you can make a circle. As my description pointed out, the space identifies the edge of the immediate neighborhood. It provides a buffer from the traffic of Cedar Road and recent large-scale development across the street. For drivers coming up Cedar Hill, it signals the beginning of Cleveland Heights. Thus, the site is an active and integral part of neighborhood life. It is not empty, vacant land that any proposal to turn it into private property implies. The city's climate forward plan includes the strategy of, quote, identifying opportunities to expand green spaces in all neighborhoods, end quote. In this instance, the community green space already exists. It enhances the neighborhood and the city in social and physical ways. As public space, it belongs to us all and is part of the city life we value and to which we all contribute. I urge the City Council not to approve the sale. Thank you.
Julie Kaufman. Julie Kaufman. Karen Lash.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Behind the scenes. Good evening. I'm Julie Kaufman. I live on Chalfont Road in Shaker Heights. Since reading the Cleveland.com article on Thursday in the late afternoon, I've been waiting for leadership to lead. And it's Monday night, and here we are. I'm just not waiting anymore. I'll just do it myself. Anti-Semitic rhetoric doesn't have a place here, there, or anywhere. Period, full stop. I don't need a mayor or a city council person or a director of a department or anyone else to say that for me. I can say it myself. And I only wish that I hadn't waited 4 days to do it so publicly. If you think you might hate Jews, I'm inviting you to go and get a cup of coffee with me. You can talk, I'll listen. Because I'm really, really good at listening. I want to know where you got your ideas from. Who poisoned you and when? And why you feel comfortable to spew hate. This is not an empty invitation because I work here. You can find me. I'm in the Planning and Development Department for the city of Cleveland Heights, and I'm proud of the work I do. Building bridges between small businesses and business owners and the community and the city. And I'm much more interested in building bridges than I am in burning them. Thank you.
Karen Lash.
Karen Lash, Monticello Boulevard. I'm probably going to come off really scattered because, is that better? Because what? Okay, okay. Because I couldn't sit down and write because I was so angry. You know, I was active, well, first of all, I moved to Cleveland Heights with my family when I started 4th grade. I won't tell you how old I am now because I'm older than I look, but I will tell you I've been here a long time and I've been a homeowner a long time. And I have loved living in this city. And I was actively involved in getting the piece passed that we could now move our government to a strong mayor. Boy, did we mess up. Boy, did we mess up. We had such high hopes. And you have caused nothing but embarrassment and shame and just unbelievable damage to the city and our reputation. I love Cleveland Heights, and I tell people who don't know me and are just meeting me, I describe myself as a hardcore Cleveland Heights person. I'm committed to this city. And to hear the things that spewed out of your wife's mouth and you haven't said a word, and the fact that somebody with that much hate and that much ignorance is attached to the mayor is beyond comprehension, and it's reprehensible. I am beside myself because I'm so angry that we elected you. We've got a lot to clean up and a lot to fix. Thank you very much. You need to resign. I guess that's the bottom line, because I never thought I'd say that, but you're of no use to us and you're only doing more damage every day that you're here.
Diana Gurley.
Good evening. I'm Diana Gurley. I live on Delaware Drive and right next to Cedar. And I'm here tonight to speak about the green space. But before I do that, I want you to know that 25 years ago, I came up that hill, Cedar Hill, with my realtor, and it was so beautiful. And I thought, I would love to live in a place like this. And since that moment, I have been so proud of the diversity, of the love, of the richness of our neighborhood. And I want very much to thank all the voices that I've heard tonight. I appreciate it. I came because I told you last time that we treasure our green space. We do. We do. And I have two requests to make from you. The first one is that this development project on Cedar Road between Overlook and Delaware be paused, if not stopped, because we need to breathe and we need to think it through, and we need to work with the community to see where we want to go with development. You heard last time that we have a significant issue with the process that is lacking in putting together a development plan that addresses our beautiful community. And what we need, as not just your constituents, but as your neighbors, as your friends, we need breathing space. We need a process that we can count on. We need a process that's fair. We need a process that is transparent so that we understand where the heck a purchase agreement comes from. We don't even know. We need to understand that you are communicating with us, not passively, but actively. We need to be engaged with you early in the process. And we need to be able to mitigate some of the issues that we knew were going to happen when the previous development across the street began, which we all know what some of those problems are: the traffic, the noise, the congestion, even the pollution, but we didn't know so much about the light problems, about the problems of dangerousness, about Cedar Avenue, about taking the space that we have to cross that area away potentially, because we thought that that was going to continue to be green space. I want to let you know that I believe you would be very pleasantly surprised by how much our neighborhood would love to participate in building a development plan, a process that we can really work with and understand. We would work with you on that. We have people who have already produced plans for a park that would give us all shared space. We have people who would like to develop a 501c3, people who would raise money, people who would generate ideas. We would like to partner with you. And so those are my two requests, for a pause and for a process. Thank you.
That's all we have, Council President.
All right, thank you. I want to thank everybody. I know this was contentious. I mean, actually, more than one contentious topic, and I do appreciate the decorum. We are now going to go through first readings. And Addie, I'll turn that over to you.
I have resolution number 089-2025 on first reading. A resolution reappointing Terry Saylor as alternate member of the Architectural Board of Review of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 090-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Bobcat of Akron through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for the acquisition of one Bobcat skid steer loader and one Bobcat compact tractor for the Department of Parks and Recreation, and providing compensation therefor, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 092-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Judco Truck Equipment for the acquisition of a 12-foot stainless steel dump body with salt spreader and plow package for the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Just so everybody understands, we did discuss all of these in committee of the whole. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 093-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Rush Truck Centers for the acquisition of an international model HV507 single axle cabin chassis for the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 094-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with GPD Group for engineering design services associated with the water line replacement project on Brinkmore and Mount Laurel Roads, providing compensation therefor, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 095-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with GPD Group for engineering design services associated with the construction of a new extension of Blanche Avenue, providing compensation therefor, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Cobb?
Yes. I am going to vote for this resolution tonight, but before we do any further resolutions regarding this extension of Blanche Avenue, we need to schedule some public hearings, and we need to make the public aware of what could be some extensive development in that area. We've already heard one person criticize us tonight for not doing a good job of publicizing the development that we're doing in the city, particularly when it involves public lands. Let's not make that mistake again.
Any other discussion? I would wholeheartedly concur with Councilman Cobb. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 096-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the Japo Cultural Arts Institute, Inc. for the purpose of planning, coordinating, and providing music, dancing, education, and local vendors for the city's Juneteenth Arts and Culture Fest at Kane Park, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? Councilwoman Larson?
Due to questions regarding when council received this information about the request to approve an agreement with JAPO for the Juneteenth event, I reluctantly will approve this resolution because this event is very important to the city. And so it's as important also that JAPO be paid for their services that they've already rendered and prior to us being asked to authorize the amendment, or the legislation. So I will support this amendment, or the legislation, excuse me.
Yes. No, you go ahead. I mean,
I just want to thank the council again. For the public, we were scheduled to have this discussion at a Parks and Recs meeting this past week, but due to scheduling conflicts with some of the members, we had to rearrange that, and the council allowed this to be placed on the agenda tonight for a committee of the whole. So I just want to thank them again for having this conversation. Due to some transitions in the city, JAPA was able to step up and work with the city staff to take over this event. I'm looking forward to it. The event is actually on June 14th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then there's a concert portion at 8 p.m. There was some additional conversation I wanted to have around this event. We just, again, weren't able to do it because of scheduling conflicts. But I did want to just take a couple of moments to just really say thank you to the city staff for working extensively on this Juneteenth event, as well as our Pride events going into the month of June. I think now more than ever, both of these events are so important to make sure that we are talking and spreading diversity, talking about our differences and celebrating each other and our uniqueness. And so I really, really hope that council supports this tonight. In addition, the 8 p.m. event, I'm excited about. This is something that I want to talk about in committee, is because it's going to help drive a lot of our engagement in terms of our businesses down to Lee Road. This is a conversation that we've talked about with staff, with the administration, and what that looks like and how we can support our Lee Road businesses during these concerts and events at Kane Park. And so these two events are going to be great in terms of continuing to push that further and create that engagement and that support around the entire area. So hopefully we're driving folks to Kane Park at these events and driving people to the business after that they're over. And so this represents a lot of investment in making that happen as well. So thank you.
Councilman, yes.
Thank you. This is a pretty expensive contract. I wish that food would be free this year like it was in previous years. And I'm also disappointed that we are going to be charging folks for the performance. I wish that that were of no cost to the residents. But I'm going to vote yes in favor of this because the staff is committed to me that they will provide information to us about the cost of last year's event.
Councilman Cobb?
I agree that this is an important event, and we have had two prior Juneteenth events. I'm troubled by the amount of money that's being proposed to be spent, which is in excess of $60,000. If you were present at our committee of the whole meeting earlier, you heard that the entire budgeted amount for community events for this year was $50,000. They've blown through that and then some, and we still have more events to put on for this year. There was no discussion of this during the budget process last year, or that carried over into this year, that we were anticipating spending this kind of money for this event. The explanation that we were given by staff is because we don't have an events coordinator. Well, why don't we have an events coordinator? Why isn't that position posted on the city's website as an open position? We have done, obviously this event has been in the works for some time. There's been lots of planning on it. It's gathered momentum. I'm going to reluctantly vote yes, but we need to do a better job of planning and budgeting and hiring people in this city so we don't have to spend $60,000 to bring a vendor in because we don't have an events coordinator. Prior years, we've been able to do this in-house apparently because we did have an events coordinator. Let's get that person hired so we don't have to spend this kind of money again.
Vice President Russell?
Councilman Cobb, I couldn't have said it more eloquently. I feel the very same way that you feel regarding this event. It is really a lot of money. It was not brought up at the budget, and advertisement has been put out there, and we're just now getting legislation, and we're a month out. So because I know all of council will vote to support this legislation, I will be a no vote.
Thank you, Vice President. I mean, it's really all been said. I would think in our fourth year, our processes would be more together, that we'd be, with all the time we spent on the budget, one would think that, you know, this would have been taken care of. I am going to vote for it because it's been advertised. I mean, this is not the order in which things ought to happen, but I'll just say,
Do roll call.
oh, we're going to do a roll call. That's right.
Cobb. Kuda.
Reluctant, aye.
Larson.
Reluctant, aye.
Maddox. Russell.
And because it's going to pass, I'm going to vote no.
Petrus.
Reluctant, aye.
All right, Addie, I'm
Nope,
sorry.
we got the added one.
Oh, my goodness, right. That's right. This is a write-in.
And did you want me to read the whole thing?
Yes. So this is, well, go ahead.
I have resolution number 100-2025 on first reading. A resolution condemning anti-Semitism, reaffirming the city's commitment to tolerance, inclusivity, and respect, and expressing solidarity with Jewish residents, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure. Whereas Cleveland Heights has long been recognized as a diverse and inclusive community enriched by people of various backgrounds, races, faiths, and beliefs. And whereas Cleveland Heights has had to overcome many obstacles during its 100-plus year history to become a diverse and inclusive community, as described in Susie Kaiser's book, Resisting Segregation. And whereas this council and the city of Cleveland Heights are firmly committed to upholding the values of mutual respect, non-discrimination, inclusion, and equity, and the unequivocal rejection of hatred, bigotry, and discrimination in all forms. And whereas our Jewish residents, neighbors, friends, and colleagues are a vital part of the culture, social, and civic fabric of Cleveland Heights, contributing to its diversity, vibrancy, and history. And whereas recent news reports on Cleveland.com and the Cleveland Jewish News have reported remarks of an anti-Semitic nature, which are alleged to have been made in the presence of an elected public official and an appointed public employee. And whereas anti-Semitism in any form is reprehensible and fundamentally contrary to the values of this community and the principles upon which this country was founded, and must be rejected and combated no matter its form or source. And whereas public officials and those closely associated with them are expected to conduct themselves in a manner that reflects the integrity, accountability, and ethical standards expected by the people they serve. And whereas silence or inaction in the face of prejudice, whether intentional or perceived, can be interpreted as complicity, and it is imperative for public leaders to respond clearly and unequivocally when such concerns arise. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Cleveland Heights, State of Ohio. One, council reaffirms its unwavering commitment to combating anti-Semitism, racism, and all forms of hate speech or discriminatory rhetoric, and reaffirms that this is the position, commitment, and official policy of the City of Cleveland Heights. Two, that council encourages all public officials and community leaders to speak out clearly and without hesitation against the anti-Semitism and hate in all of its forms, and to affirm the dignity and humanity of all people. Three, that this council in the City of Cleveland Heights stands in solidarity with Jewish residents of the city and Jewish communities everywhere who may feel vulnerable, unsafe, or unwelcome due to anti-Semitic words or actions. Four, that council reaffirms its dedication to promoting inclusion and respect for all communities, and encourages residents to unite in building a city where all people can thrive in dignity and peace.
That's good right there. And I do want to thank Councilman Cobb for helping me write this, and all of council for agreeing in committee of the whole to adopt it tonight. Is there a motion to adopt this?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Would anybody like to make a statement? Councilman Cobb?
Yes, I would. I don't know if anyone realized earlier that Julie Kaufman is one of our employees. I can't imagine what she must be feeling right now, or the courage it took for her to come forward. Knowing that she serves at the pleasure of the mayor, that she potentially puts her job at jeopardy for doing it. That she's got the courage that, frankly, I'm afraid I wouldn't have if my job was on the line. And I just hope she doesn't face any retaliation or gets put on a leave of absence, which is what happens to people that make complaints. I want to talk for a moment about the individuals that were mentioned in these hateful and hurtful text messages that show the ignorance and the bigotry of the person that sent them but also their lack of knowledge of the facts. First, Jessica Cohen has provided public service to this city for more than a decade. I served with her on the Planning Commission, where she has been a member since 2015, well predating any of the matters that are the subject of those hateful and anti-Semitic text messages. Jessica took my place as chairperson in 2019, and since then has been elected repeatedly by her fellow members to serve as its chairperson. She's also served on the city's Charter Review Commission. I served with her, and we met for a year and a half from 2017 to 2019. She also was a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee before she went on the Planning Commission. As I'm sure will be noted by others, she has impeccable academic and professional qualifications, and her character and integrity are above reproach. Her public service for this city is to be celebrated, not ridiculed by the spouse of a public official. Eric Zamp joined the city in 2021 when he was hired under the prior form of government to be the city's planning director. Until the text messages, I have never seen his motives or qualifications questioned, and no disrespect meant to any of our other city department heads. Eric is recognized both inside and outside of City Hall as an excellent leader. He would be difficult to replace if he ever decided to leave, a fear I have often expressed in private conversations to residents and fellow council members. I hope that what has happened now with these text messages doesn't cause him to leave this city. Like Jessica, his qualifications as a leader are unquestionable, and his character and integrity are above reproach. The other victims of this text messages include Marty Gelfand, who's seated in the back. Marty is a former South Euclid council person. Just coincidentally, I see Marty every day in Starbucks on the way to work, and we sit and chat for a few minutes. His character and integrity are above reproach. Our fellow council member, Jim Posh, who is not here tonight, was also the subject of these hateful text messages, as were former council members Jason Stein and Mike Unger, who coincidentally served with Mr. Sarin before he became the mayor. Again, their character, their integrity, and commitment to unselfish public service shouldn't even be questioned. They have always acted in the best interests of their respective cities over any particular constituency, be it religious or otherwise. Since Mr. Sarin has remained silent regarding these text messages, I am going to apologize on behalf of the city to Eric, Jessica, Marty, Jason, Michael, and Jim for the hurtful, false, defamatory, and anti-Semitic remarks in those text messages. I've gone on for too long, but I'm going to have some other remarks to say when it comes time to public comments.
All right, who would like to speak next? Councilwoman Larson.
Good evening. Recent media articles have brought to light reported and confirmed instances of the mayor's wife's verbally abusive behavior in front of our city staff, council, and directed at some of our citizens. I have struggled the past few days to say the right words or take the right action, words and action that align with my values. In this moment, I choose to express my disgust at the appalling alleged and confirmed verbal treatment by the mayor's wife. Her actions are far from professional and do not conform to my value that you treat other human beings with respect and understanding. Her words have created personal anxiety, with anxiety among staff, and most recently, anxiety among our Jewish community and those who support the statement. All are welcome here. These patterns of volatile accusations and confrontation cannot continue. Anti-Semitism is not acceptable and should not be tolerated here in Cleveland Heights, home to many who love the diversity of our neighborhoods. Mayor Sarin, I call on you to take accountability for enabling your wife's behavior by looking the other way when she has directed angry, vitriolic words at city staff and citizens. As the city's leader, your judgment has failed you. Please apologize personally to the employees who've been affected and to those citizens and staff who were recently reported to be demeaned by her words of degradation and hatred. Please denounce the anti-Semitism conveyed by those words described in the recently announced lawsuit against the city. Without these apologies, you reflect the behavior of someone not qualified to lead the city. Too many people have been treated unkindly. Too many people have been hurt. Hatred has no place in this city, especially when that hatred is expressed by your wife and you are silent. We need to hear from you now, Mayor Sarin, so the city staff, council, and citizens can begin to heal. I support this legislation wholeheartedly.
Mr. President.
Councilman Maddox.
Thank you. Listen, this issue is huge. In order to describe this and the largeness of this issue and the impact that it's had on so many people, it just take more than the time allotted tonight. I've addressed this weekend. One of the things that I've always stood on is making sure that anything that I address from a national level or a public, local, community level, I try to address from my pulpit first, to address with my residents who are connected to my church, to really make sure I'm communicating, articulating things through them. And during those conversations with both my church members and community members, it's apparent to me that there's a much broader conversation that needs to be had in this community. Even on my way in, I was receiving phone calls from folks who were saying, hey, I'm offended by a protest. And other folks who are angry and saying more people should have shown up for it. I'm hearing the conversation that we had earlier about this particular resolution and in adding other things to it and making sure that other people are seen, that other people are also heard, and other people are welcomed across our community is part of the conversation that's been bubbling up. And so my team is posting my full kind of statement and comments about this that I made over the weekend, but I do want to give you this tonight and simply say, and I'm hoping that this will serve as a foundation for the conversations we're having about this resolution, for the conversations we're having about the next resolution. I want to thank my colleagues. For those of you guys that don't know, in committee of the whole, when we talked about supporting this resolution, we also talked about supporting a resolution that speaks to the much larger issues that many of our marginalized folks in our community are also facing, to make sure that they're addressed, including some of those folks on our council who have been negatively impacted by statements or actions. And so I'm hoping that this continues, this conversation continues, and we continue to allow people to come in here and express their feelings, and we embrace it, and we hear people for where they are and learn from one another. And so I just want to leave with this quote, and I hope that it's helpful, from Dr. Martin Luther King. It says, if we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. And this means we must develop a world perspective. My desire is that as a community, we develop a perspective that steps outside of our personal world, our personal culture, our personal circle, and thinks much broader about how we fit in and connect with the others around us, regardless of faith, regardless of race, regardless of social structure. I'm hoping that this continues to further the conversation. I'm hoping that as we've continued to support our Jewish brothers and sisters with this resolution tonight, that we'll continue to support our other groups in the city who also feel like they haven't been as heard or as seen or as respected. But again, for me, it's really, really simple. All our welcome is great, but it's not perfect until all are also seen, heard, and respected, no matter where they're coming from, no matter what they believe, and no matter what they look like. So I look forward to continue this conversation and continue to find ways to make sure that we're representing all in the city. Thank you.
Councilman Petrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to deliver my prepared remarks later in the meeting during our council member comments, but I'd just like to say that after this disgusting piece broke Thursday evening, I reached out to each of the 4 people mentioned in it, and I can't imagine what they and their families are going through at this time. And so I am grateful for their service to our city and want to support them in every way I can. And I'd just like to thank Council President Kuda and Council Member Cobb for writing and revising the resolution that we have before us. Again, I'm going to deliver my prepared remarks later. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Russell.
I just want to say I support this resolution with 100%. It is very hard, and this has been very hard for me. I was not able to sleep, and I'm gonna tell you why. It brought back some real deep memories that I didn't want to have to address. I grew up in racism. I went to Collinwood High School during the riots when people wanted to kill Black people. I ran home from school every single day from the 9th grade to the 12th grade due to someone trying to kill me or hurt me. I know racism very, very well. And this hurts terribly to see anyone treated in a way that is not human. It brought back hurtful feelings when the mayor sat there and didn't say one word when a flyer depicted Mr. Cobb as an Oreo, me as a Phonics bus driver, President Kuda as a turkey neck, Councilwoman Larson as a person who always reading off her paper, Councilman Petrus as Howdy Doody. Mr. Maddox was not put in the photo. No one, and I said this at the committee of the whole, not one person, not even a council person, said anything about that. And I could tell just by the triple in his voice that Councilman Cobb was very upset and hurt. But it was not stopped, not one word. When I mentioned it, I'm asking, no one said nothing. With no comment from the mayor, you opened the doors to more hatred. Without stopping it and saying right then and there, this will not take place in this city, you brought on more hate. You brought on more of everything because now you've given permission by your silence that Black people can go through racism, Jewish people can go through racism, LGBT, can they go through racism? Because you really defend them. And we love them too. They are part of this community. They are a part of this community. We are all a part of this community. And when you say all is welcome, it has to be for everybody in this community. And I'm telling you how hard we stood back from just saying, you know what? And I know why you didn't say nothing. I know why you didn't say nothing. I know why a lot of you didn't say nothing, because you didn't know what to say. But it wasn't our job to say it because we had a leader. We had a leader who was supposed to stop it. It was a leader who was supposed to say, let me tell you something. I don't care what I feel about them council people, but that will not happen in this community. That will not happen in this city. And when you are silenced on issues that hurt people, everyday people, you open the door. You personally open the door for all to come here that is wrong. And now we need to close the door on all this hatred and stick together. I am so sorry this has happened to our community, to the Jewish community, to the people who was hurt by this. This should have never happened, but quiet as it's kept, this has been going on from day one. This has been going on from day one. Rumors has been had out there from day one. But you don't want to talk, you don't want to tell on people. You don't want to divulge people's names. This stuff has been rumored around City Hall for a very long time, for 4 years. But nobody could say anything about it because you can't talk about things when you don't have proof. You have to have proof before you can divulge anything anybody is saying to you. But I am so sorry. I am so sorry that our community is where it is today. You all have my true apology. But I am looking for, and I'm still looking for justice. When it came to that flyer, when the mayor decides to apologize to you all, I want one too.
All right. I do have some prepared remarks. Yeah, sure. I do have some prepared remarks, but I just wanted to say first that if anybody is disappointed in the wording, maybe it doesn't quite meet the standard, this is the packet that was delivered to council on Friday evening. And this is what we have to read through in order to scrutinize the legislation and be prepared to vote on Monday. And I'm not making excuses, but I'm letting you know this is our reality. So I want to thank Councilman Cobb for helping me put the resolution together. I hope it's at least decent for most of you and maybe good for some of you. And really, when something like this happens, do you know all the people that are involved? Usually these news stories happen and you're like, who are they? But I know everybody. I'm going to go a little different direction. I want to remark about the significance of these whereas clauses in the history of Cleveland Heights, because Susie Kaiser did write a book about how Cleveland Heights evolved into this all are welcome. You see, I wore my shirt today.
That's why we migrated here, because of racism.
That's right. And I would strongly suggest you read the book, because this community wasn't always an all are welcome community. And this resolution has personal significance, I think, for all Cleveland Heights residents, because when something like this happens, we can all connect in some way. And that's the wonderful thing I think that's happening tonight. For me, I grew up on DeSoto in the 1960s. And everybody on the street was Jewish except my family. My single mom, we were not only the only non-Jews on the street, we were the only single family, single mother family I even knew of in 1961 when we moved on to DeSoto. I went to Boulevard Elementary School, not the one that's there now, but the one that was torn down, Roosevelt Junior High and Heights High School. This 100% Jewish street, except for us, was my environment, it was my socialization, and it became part of my sensibility, coming primarily from my experience growing up on DeSoto. My brother and I still tell DeSoto stories like almost every time we get on the phone. My family was welcomed, accepted, and embraced by our Jewish neighbors. I am forever grateful for the richness of my childhood and the friendships that I made my young years, that made my young years so much meaningful and fun. We were outside playing every day. No video games, outdoors, football, baseball, kickball. Now, 50 or 60 years later, after so much progress has been made, I'm reading reports from the news media that anti-Semitic remarks have been directed at people, wonderful, wonderful people who I know and admire. Am I naive for being shocked? Well, I am. I am shocked. I'm disappointed. I'm repulsed. And most of all, so sorry that our Jewish community has to endure this kind of vile hate speech. Just so sorry. And I want to thank my dear mother for moving us to this neighborhood and this city, because it's who I am. And with that, why don't we do a roll call vote?
Petrus.
Aye.
Russell.
Aye.
Maddox. Larson.
Absolutely aye.
Kuda.
An enthusiastic aye.
Cobb.
Absolutely aye.
All right, thank you, Addie. Would we move on to first readings only?
I have resolution number 097-2025 on first reading, a resolution expressing support for the Myers Manor Transitional Living Facility for Homeless Women with Children project, introduced by Vice President Russell.
All right, thank you. Second readings?
I have resolution number 081-2025 on second reading, a resolution adopting the City of Cleveland Heights Climate Forward and Action and Resilience Plan, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Larson. Oh my God.
Sustainability Coordinator Watang presented the Climate Forward and Action and Resilience Plan to the Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee on May 16. All three committee members agreed to move the legislation out of committee and back to council for approval.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
Point of privilege.
Oh, sure.
Mr. President, just I need to leave.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to express my apologies for not being able to stay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mayor.
President. Yep.
On this legislation, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 082-2025.
Point of order, please, Mr. President.
I got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, everybody. We've done very well so far. Go ahead. I'm sorry, where?
Over here.
Yeah, sorry.
I have ordinance number 082-2025 on second reading. An ordinance amending section 143.04 compensation of members of chapter 143 Landmark Commission of the codified ordinances of Cleveland Heights and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I have resolution number 083-2025 on second reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Lexipol LLC for annual subscription services used to provide the police department with comprehensive departmental policy management solutions, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We just have a few more, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
Next, I have ordinance number 084-2025, second reading as amended. An ordinance enacting a new section 171.16 city contract publication requirement requiring transparency and accountability for contracts, introduced by Vice President Russell.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second? All right, do we have a motion to amend?
Yes.
We need to do that here, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Vice President Russell.
I move to amend ordinance 084-2025 by a substitution of the version previously read into the record for the amendment version dated tonight in the packet.
All right, do we have a second for that?
Second.
And any discussion on the amendment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. Or do we have an amended version now, so we're good?
Yes,
Okay,
so now we do the adoption. We've already have a
Okay.
first and second, so do
And
you vote?
So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry.
Do we have a comment period?
Yes, and I skipped over it, and that's my fault. Sorry. Yeah, please go ahead. I'm just.
For folks who are not aware, City Council has to approve contracts of $50,000 or more. Over the last few months, I and other council members have learned from current and former staff members and through the media of contracts that seem to have been passed just below the threshold to skirt our knowledge. This legislation is critically important because it will provide transparency to not just us, but all residents of this city of contracts between $7,500 and $50,000 so that there won't be any more getting snuck through. So I would like to thank all members of council for getting behind this.
And
Councilwoman Russell.
for author. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, and that motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 087-2025 on second reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with 3D More Enterprises LLC for a loan under the city storefront loan fund program to help renovate the storefronts at 3936 through 3946 Mayfield Road, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Excited to get this project going. Many of you know that the storefronts located in this area, the frontage collapsed. So this allows them to be able to renovate that, support the businesses, many of which were trying to open at the time that this happened. And so this is a great investment in that area. If you know where this area is, right at the Mayfield Noble Triangle right there, you'll know that there's already a building that the city is invested in with businesses there on the other side. So this completes that investment on that side and really helps to transform that neighborhood. So excited to be able to support those businesses and that owner there. I know Councilman Cobb asked earlier in terms of the insurance. That's a question I got from a lot of residents as well. And from the feedback that we got during Committee of the Whole, it looks like it won't cover much of anything, and it sounds like they're still working through that process. So this allows that building to get repaired, get those businesses open, and allows us to move forward. And so just excited about this project. So if you're driving back by there, if you want to take a look, it will not look exactly like the building, I believe, to the right of it, but it'll absolutely be fully renovated. It'll just be a great place to go through, in addition to the fact that this doesn't just cover those building renovations, but also the streetscaping around that. And so it's going to help to change and transform that area. So just wanted to add that in. Just excited to complete this part of that project. And shout out to our planning development department for supporting them and making this work.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 088-2025 on second reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with 3D More Enterprises LLC for a loan under the city storefront loan fund program to help renovate the storefronts at 3948 Mayfield Road, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. Now we're on to the consent agenda. There's just two more pieces.
I've got resolution number 098-2025 on first reading, a resolution declaring June 2025 to be LGBTQ+ Pride Month, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Sarin. I also have resolution number 099-2025 on first reading, a resolution proclaiming June 6, 2025 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Cleveland Heights, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by all city council members.
All right, is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
All right, then we have a second. All in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And would anybody like to move for adoption?
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
3 people. Okay. And we have
Adopt.
we have both. So any discussion or comments? I'm just glad to see both of these pieces on here. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. Now we're on to committee reports. And just so you know, old business, new business, and council member comments are coming up.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilman
President.
Petros.
The Housing and Building Committee met at 5 p.m. on Monday, May 12th. We discussed legislation drafted by the Law Department that would provide information to homeowners of available assistance programs when cited for a housing violation. In case you're not aware, currently you receive your violation, and maybe on page 6 it says, call this number to learn about programs that may be available. This legislation will ensure that you are provided a brochure that tells you here are all the programs that you could be eligible for. That's not to say that everyone's going to be eligible for every program, but if our goal is increased compliance, hopefully this will help folks. We also discussed responses that we received from the County Inspector General regarding their contractor debarment process and our recent hearing regarding parking of commercial vehicles in residential areas. The committee's next regular meeting is scheduled for 5 p.m. on Monday, June 9th. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Any other committee reports? Councilwoman Larson.
This was just as part of Councilman Petrus's update, just letting everybody know that we put it back in the committee. I don't know if you mentioned that, but it's coming back. Thank you.
That's
The Finance Committee will meet on June 3rd at 6 p.m. and will continue discussions with Director Hairston regarding financial reports, hopefully for March and April, and an update on the state audit of the city's 2023 financial reports. We'll continue discussion led by Councilor Maddox regarding lending programs available to our underserved neighborhoods. Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee met on May 16th. And as we noted earlier with this legislation, that we approved the legislation for the Climate Resilience Plan, and it is now an ordinance. I presented a proposed scope of work for the composting pilot program. Coordinator Boateng agreed to submit a request for proposal based on the listed tasks and to let us know when the request for proposal has been published so we can start to advertise it and let people know how they can get signed up for that program. City will be providing the drop-offs free of charge.
Any other committee reports? I'm losing my voice. Of course, in this moment, this is the person I need to talk. All right. Well, while Vice President Russell is talking, I just want to say that there was supposed to be a hearing on places of worship tonight, and it was at the exact same time as some of the activities that were outside. So we rescheduled the places of worship hearing for 6 p.m. Mark this down, 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 27th, thank you, which is the day after Memorial Day. So that's coming up. And now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to interrupt. Councilwoman Russell, do you have a committee report? Because this is it.
That's what we were talking about. So it was a little confusion there. But we have a scheduled meeting for planning and development on May 28th, and it was around developers. That's all I'm going to say right now.
And you have one for June 4th as well.
I have one for June 4th for the Taylor merchants. This is for the Taylor merchants. I'm trying to help get a merchants associations for all of the Taylor merchants. So please be there. I was able to get some startup money for Noble to start theirs. You were charged with an assignment at the first Taylor Merchants meeting. So hopefully you'll come in on the 4th with your assignment completed. And I'll see you on the 4th, the merchants for Taylor Road, and I'll see the developers on the 28th. Which one? Taylor Road Merchants is June 4th, 10:30. All of Taylor.
All right, thank you. We're on to old business. We're now on to new business. Yes.
Just a part of old business. Just want to remind the council, still working on the legislation for the smoke shops. We're going to do a work session and bring some of the owners in to talk about some of the regulations. And we've also invited Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland to come in and do that as well.
Yeah,
so I'll make sure that we send that invite out.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Member Maddox, as part of your committee hearings, do you envision us looking at any limitations on the number of licensed dispensaries we're going to allow in this city?
Absolutely, as well as limiting in terms of location and distance from one another and some other things. And interestingly enough, along with that, some of our smoke shop owners have also made some suggestions that they think will also help kind of rein and tighten some things in, shockingly enough. But that distance and the amount or the volume that we're adding into those neighborhoods is absolutely on there. And if the public is wanting to know why, Coventry is a prime example. And that's why we're looking at that in terms of the distance between them.
Real quickly, Director Hanna, is there a state law that covers how many smoke shops can be in a municipality? I'm sorry, not smoke shops, dispensaries.
I'm not prepared to respond to that, Mr. President.
All right.
I know Mr. Councilman Maddox has indicated he's had legislation coming, and we're going to be talking about that. Haven't started that yet.
Sorry to spring that in. Go ahead.
Mr. President, I will say that when we did pass legislation allowing medical marijuana dispensaries in this city, we gave the mayor the authority to grant the licenses without any restrictions or say on the part of city council. So we may want to revisit that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
There also needs to be a conversation. I know some of our residents are confused about the difference between a smoke or a vape shop and a dispensary.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about regulations, we're really talking about two different sets of businesses that intersect. And so I wanted to clarify that we're going to have some conversations about what that looks like in the regulations for both, because there's been some confusion around what people have. So, yep, that's it.
All right, with no other new business, we're going to go on to council member. Oh, that always happens.
Yeah, new business. I don't, maybe it should be under, no, go with council comments. I'll put it
All
on.
right, well, let's just say it's council comments. and
Okay,
I'll call
council
in.
comments, okay. I just want to notify the residents that I am having a Pathway to Home Ownership seminar. It will be June 9th. Monday, June 9th. It will be at 6:00 p.m. at the Noble Road Library. Also, we will have someone there from the Home Resource Center who will give you all the information you need on home repair, the new home repair programs, loans, grants, exterior, interior, anything that you need for your home. You can come there and find out all the new information, how to apply. All that information will be there at the library on June 9th at the Noble Road Library. We will also be having a loans and let you know how much money you can get for purchasing a home and buying a new home as well. So all of that information will be there. So if your home needs to be repaired, interior, exterior, please come. The Home Resource Center will be there to tell you how to go through the application process, the loans and all that stuff. So thank you. 6:00.
And hopefully we can get that flyer. Any other council comments? Councilman Petrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. The allegations reported on Thursday by Cleveland.com are deeply disturbing and have no place in our city hall. Cleveland Heights is home to one of the largest and most vibrant Jewish communities in Ohio. To see that community, or any community, targeted with hate and bigotry from within our own city hall is beyond unacceptable. We say that all are welcome in Cleveland Heights, but that promise means nothing if hate is allowed in through the back door, or if city staff are pressured to follow the directives of someone with no official role who engages in discriminatory behavior and wields unchecked influence. That's not leadership. That's chaos and cruelty, and Cleveland Heights deserves better. City government works best when the people inside City Hall feel valued, supported, and empowered to do their jobs well. We need a workplace culture rooted in respect, accountability, and collaboration, not dysfunction or fear. That means listening to staff, providing the training and tools they need, setting clear expectations for excellent city services, and celebrating team member successes. When we support the people who serve our city, it directly translates into higher quality city services for residents. Let's make it clear, hate and intimidation have no place in our city government. We have a responsibility to our residents, to our staff, and to every community that calls Cleveland Heights home to confront what's broken and fix it. As those who follow our city council know, we are actively working on legislation that addresses a number of issues that we have recently seen in the media, such as who can have a city hall access badge. I look forward to continuing work on this and other legislation so that City Hall is a place where our values are not just slogans, but standards we live by. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Other council comments? Councilman Cobb?
Yeah, I'm sorry the mayor has left, so he's not present to hear the remarks that some of us have to make. Countless times we've all heard Mr. Sarin reference the city's motto, all are welcome, to mean this is a welcoming, inclusive community where, quote, these are his words, bigotry and hatred, end of quote, will not be tolerated. Other times he has stated, quote, we do not tolerate discrimination in City Hall, end of quote. You can't pick and choose when you want to apply those words. At least one of the remarks that has been reported dates back to April 2024, over a year ago. That is worth noting because within the last month, Mr. Sarin has denied that there is or was a hostile work environment in City Hall or that his wife has been disruptive. Stated he saw no problem with her having access to City Hall and interacting with employees. Has proudly referred to her as the First Lady, likening her role to that of a president's wife. Has referred to her as a trusted advisor and that he, quote, values her insight, end of quote. He was recently quoted in the Scene magazine stating, quote, this is a person who knows me well, end of quote. The question now raised by those text messages is whether she knows him well enough to feel comfortable making the remarks that she did on multiple occasions over a lengthy period of time. I'm married. I know how hard it can be to have tough conversations with a spouse, to tell them you disagree or suggest they need to correct offensive words or behavior, whether intended or not. Unfortunately, sometimes to avoid a conflict or an argument with a spouse, we say or do nothing. But when you are the mayor, you do not have the luxury of inaction or remaining silent. If there is any truth to what has been reported, we are not dealing with a single statement or incident where a failure to take action or speak up by the person in charge might be excused as a momentary and single lapse in judgment, if that is even possible, given the subject matter of those texts. If Mr. Sarin did not share his wife's views, he needed to take action. He had both a moral and, more importantly, he had a legal obligation as the mayor to do something at the first sign of any anti-Semitic words or any other conduct that violated the city's workplace practices and policies set forth in the handbook. Instead, he allowed her continued presence in City Hall, knowing what was in her mind and in her heart. Moreover, he gave her free reign of the building, enabled her behavior that has now led to legal action against the city that will serve as a further distraction, as has happened here tonight, and hurt the city's already damaged reputation. And now, given the recent claim that has been filed with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission and the EEOC, we are going to incur legal expenses and face potential exposure for money damages. How many other lawsuits are we looking at as a result of what the mayor allowed to transpire in this city? Lastly, I hope that the public and the Plain Dealer's editor, and one of the Plain Dealer reporters is here tonight, can finally see that the dysfunction in City Hall and this government has nothing to do with any alleged power struggle between a mayor and a city council. To be clear, regardless of any arguments or differences of opinion between the council members over the last 3.5 years, and we have had differences, this city council, no matter its composition or who has been council president, has consistently voted for everything. Let me repeat that, for everything that this mayor has needed to be successful in governing the city, including most recently the budget, which had every expense and employee complement that he had requested in it. What we are witnessing now and having to live through is entirely due to the mayor. It has nothing to do with city council. And, you know, before, when I spoke last December, I thought it was a low point in this city's history. I was wrong. Where we are at now is the low point. I hope that things don't get any worse. I cannot wait to hear the mayor's statement tomorrow. 5 or 6 days past when these remarks were reported is too long. He owes it to the residents to give personal apologies to the persons that were defamed and hurt by those text messages. He owes an apology to every employee of this city who has had to endure dealings with his wife since she became a presence in this city hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to let everyone know again, Juneteenth is June 14th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then there's a concert that same day at 8 p.m. And our Pride celebration is Saturday at June 28th at 12 p.m. And lastly, I'll say this. Our community has a lot of issues. Over the last couple of months, we've seen them bubble up all over. But make no mistake about it, there is a level of accountability this council has to have for the way that things have moved through this city. We cannot put this on the mayor. We cannot put all of this on the mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, let him talk. Go ahead.
It's important that as we lead from a place of honesty and accountability. It's not the time to discuss everything that's happened over the last several years, but it's extremely dangerous to remove all accountability from this council for anything that has happened in this city and place it solely on one person. And lastly, I want to say this as a pastor and an activist. It is everyone's responsibility to speak out against injustice and racism, not just the mayor. So if this council heard something that it was offended by, it is not the responsibility of the mayor to speak up for any one individual. It's a responsibility for each and every one of us to speak up and hold people accountable for what we hear in front of our faces. It's inexcusable to think that we should put that responsibility on anyone else for what we hear in a room. And that doesn't just mean from what we see in text messages. It also means from the things that are given to us and said to us and spoken to us during public comment, out in our neighborhood chats, in our emails. Respect should be for all. So as you're hearing the feedback and the negative impact that these words have had, these alleged words have had on people here, just imagine what your neighbors feel when you say these things in our neighborhood chat, or you send these emails out to council members or to other members of the city staff. Let's try to have the measure of respect for each other that we want to be given to us. But we cannot simply say that this problem is resting on one man. There's a culture issue in this community. This is a dialogue that we've had from our faith-based communities even in this city hall. It'd be wrong to say that everything that is bubbling up over the history of this city is measured up by one person. I've been calling out racism for the last 3 years on this council. Example after example. Your city residents, your fellow African-American residents have come in here and stepped up and stated the same thing. Jewish residents, even in 2024, have come in and walked in and say, hey, I don't feel heard and respected. This isn't just coming from the mayor, it's coming from people on this council and other residents. We have to have a better conversation and a greater conversation, all of us, of respecting one another. So let's make sure that we are all holding ourselves accountable for how we treat people, how we tolerate people, even how Amy Eugene, a white woman, has come in here and turned her back on me, but continues to have to express how she is not a racist while demonizing Black people. These are the type of things that we need to make sure that we are honest about and being respectful about, all right? And so I am excited to be a resident here. I'm proud to be a resident here, but it doesn't mean that we don't have work to do. We each have blind spots that we need to absolutely work on, even how we articulate our frustration to one another. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman. All right, wait, hold on. Let's
point of order.
We're doing good so far.
Please with the shouts. I wasn't disrespectful to anyone while we're talking, but it's continued to happen.
I'm in the middle of
But I did a point of order. It's not been addressed, and it's continued to happen. And I'm just asking for the same level of respect that I gave everybody tonight. It's wrong. Thank you.
Well, you already did. You already had a comment. And this is going to be it. Please bear with me. I know it's late. I have to speak my mind tonight. You know, that's the one thing about being council president. You're always last, which is, you know, got its, I guess, good points too. All right. So it's just not getting better. That's the thing that keeps going through my head. The resolution that was passed this evening is rightfully focused on anti-Semitism, what I'm about to say is in no way meant to take the focus off the important topic we all heard so much about from our residents who spoke so eloquently tonight. But at the end of the day, there has to be accountability. Maybe not today, but I hopefully soon. When Citizens for an Elected Mayor passed an amendment to our charter to change our form of government, an overwhelming majority of our citizens supported that change. And for the record, and I want to make this clear, I support that change every bit as much today as I did 6 years ago. And let me be clear, the mayor has done some good things, like the renovations that you see happening in City Hall right here. But what I also supported was accountability and responsiveness from an elected mayor to our citizens. And I don't think we're getting that. The buck doesn't seem to stop anywhere, and that's not okay. But a lot of things seem to be okay with this mayor that are not okay with me. A few weeks ago at our leadership meeting, the mayor screamed at Vice President Russell for no reason. She just started to ask a question, and as soon as she started, she may have got 3-4 words out. You shut up, real loud. F-bombs followed that. That's not okay. When council rightfully passed a temporary budget on December 19th, the mayor called the council stupid and ignorant and liars. That's not okay. The mayor used, please don't do that. The mayor used city resources to send out politicized messages to residents in response. That's not okay. Saying the resignations of 12 top-level employees is just part of the natural cycle of municipal government turnover is not okay, or I'll just say it just doesn't ring true to me. But the mayor's treatment of our residents bothers me the most. Calling residents who agree with council sycophants, that is not okay. Cussing out a resident in the hallway after the December 19th meeting, not okay. Lecturing residents who want to swim at Heights High School pool instead of granting them the lifeguards council funded through council vice president's legislation is not okay. And not answering Dan Horrigan's emails and letting a qualified city administrator go in favor of, I guess, supporting his wife is not okay. And maybe, and certainly a bad idea. So when I read the allegations about anti-Semitic remarks made allegedly with the mayor's knowledge, I thought again, not okay. But whether this happened the way the mayor's former special assistant said it happened or not, there's just a lot of stuff that's not okay. To be totally candid, there have been a lot of things that have not been okay for the past 3.5 years. It didn't start 6 months ago. He didn't talk to 4 council people for like 2 years. The first 2 years. That's not okay. I guess we just did the best we could and we moved on. But tonight, I'm asking the mayor to be accountable and responsive to our Jewish community and to the community at large, and at least try to heal this open wound. Just letting it fester is not an option. It's definitely not okay. With that, I adjourn this meeting.